Are your ears ringing with startup advice? Me too. I love following startup founders and investors, soaking up their wisdom. But sometimes, let's face it, their advice is meaning it doesn't make sense for your situation, and you should ignore it. Today, I'm going to debunk 5 common startup myths that are often delivered as gospel and show you what to do instead. Make sure to stick around to the end for a bonus tip that'll supercharge your odds of success. If you're anything like me, you follow your startup heroes on social media and try and learn everything that you can from their journey. I love soaking up wisdom from people like Gary Tan, Justin Kahn, Mark Andreessen, Eric Ries, Steve Blank, and so many others. But as we all know, even the best advice doesn't work in all situations. Let's take a look at some common startup wisdom that may not be so wise for you to follow. Myth 1. Focus on TAM, total addressable market. Every investor is going to want to see your TAM slide, the total addressable market that you think your product could reach. Now, envisioning a huge market is a great way to get investors excited. And let's face it, if you can't do that, you don't really have any business talking to investors in the first place. But trying to design for a huge market upfront when you're first bringing your idea to life can be a disaster. Successful innovators like Apple, Netflix, Airbnb, Facebook, Tesla, and Pinterest all started by delighting a small, high-need group of early superfans. The smartest entrepreneurs know that delighting a narrow niche of high-need customers is the best way to set yourself up for sustained growth. As Airbnb founder Brian Chesky says, build something 100 people love, not something 1 million people kind of like. Myth 2. Get out of the building. Lean startup guru Steve Blank once famously said, get out of the building. Now, for product creators and engineers that don't ever talk to customers, this is a revolutionary and powerful statement, but it's also blunt hammer advice that can easily lead you astray. Way too often, startup founders surround themselves with enthusiasts and cheerleaders, and they don't do the hard work of finding people they don't know who actually need their product. So you need to talk to the right customers for your development stage, because otherwise, getting out of the building is going to lead you in circles. Myth 3. Polish your onboarding early. Now, nobody can deny the importance of onboarding in product design. It sets the stage for everything else that happens, and if you lose people right up front, you may never get them back. However, when you're bringing a compelling new idea to life, polishing your onboarding is not the first thing you should do, because when you do that, without thinking through and implementing a re-engagement loop, you risk building an expensive leaky bucket. That's why the smartest game developers and entrepreneurs start by figuring out re-engagement and then leave the polishing of onboarding until later in development. So don't confuse what you need to do to raise money with early stage product design. If you find yourself polishing your onboarding and you haven't figured out your re-engagement loop, you're doing it backwards. Myth 4, build fast and launch to learn. Who needs market research or deep dive customer discovery? Why not just roll up your sleeves, throw together your ideas, and launch as fast as possible? Now, you're going to hear this advice from a lot of people in startup land, many of them citing lean startup as their inspiration and playbook. And for engineers turned founders, this is a tempting path, and sometimes it can work. But this advice misunderstands the core fundamentals of lean startup, which is all about testing your assumptions as early as possible. There are so many ways that you can test your ideas without launching or building code or designing detailed UX. Investors love it when young companies launch quickly, and you can learn a lot by getting your product into people's hands as soon as possible. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you don't have a clue who you're really designing for, and you haven't gathered a group of hardcore superfans who can help you figure that out, I gotta tell you, it is not in your best interest to launch quickly. Don't be fooled. There are faster, cheaper, smarter ways to validate your value prop. Myth 5, drive engagement with external rewards. One of the most persistent myths in startup land is this idea that external rewards and gamification are the secret to long-term engagement. Now, if you already have a compelling customer journey, Sprinkling rewards on top can absolutely boost your results. But if your journey is flawed or even non-existent, external rewards aren't going to solve your retention problem. In fact, they'll probably make it worse. For example, a recent longitudinal study of dieters from the UK found that financial incentives for weight loss actually lead to faster regain in weight after the program's finished. Or take my client, a smart AI chatbot who added points and badges to boost retention and ended up getting more confused than ever about who they were actually serving. If your journey isn't strong, don't waste your time dicking around with external rewards. It's an expensive Band-Aid that's going to distract you from fixing the real problem. So there you have it, 5 startup myths busted and what to do instead. Don't focus on TAM when you're first testing your idea. Instead, find and delight your early hot core market first. Don't get out of the building and talk to customers without carefully selecting and calibrating who you're talking to. Don't polish your onboarding early if you haven't created a compelling reason to return. Don't build fast and launch to learn without first validating ideas with people in your hot core market. Otherwise, you're just wasting money and time. Don't drive engagement with external rewards if your customer journey is weak or non-existent. It'll distract you from fixing the real problem. And since you stuck around to the end, here's your bonus piece of advice. Pay attention to the background and incentives of anyone that's offering you advice, including me. Make sure to take that into account whenever you're trying to apply someone's advice to your particular situation. That type of contextual awareness will help you get clarity and be smart, thoughtful, and effective in applying the great advice that's out there for all of us to enjoy. Now, what about you? Which of these myths have you seen in action? Which one do you relate to the most? Tell me in the comments, and you just might get a shout out in our next video. And if you want more great innovation tips tailored for your specific situation, take our free quiz at gamethinking.io/quiz, and you'll find out what your entrepreneurial style is. See you in the next video.